My name is Millard V McMillan. I was born in Mercer County, West Virginia, a place called Thornhill Holler. And we had no electricity back in those days. Everything was done by hand, and my mother used to do her washing by the creek. And I'm number 10 out of 11 siblings. And when I was 17, a friend of mine come to me and said, "Want to know if I wanted a job making a man's wages?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, we got to register for the draft to get that job." So me and him went to Bluefield, which is about 20 miles away there, and registered for the draft. And they gave me a job on the railroad and sent me to Crestline, Ohio, which was, to the best of my knowledge, about 500 miles from home. I went home one payday, and my sister told me, said she got my call to the Army. Went to Kentucky and got my uniform there, and then I was sent to Camp Barkley, Texas to do basic training, and I did 12 weeks there. And from there, I was sent to California, a tent city out there called Camp Coxcomb. And there I spent about 6 months on maneuvers. And during that time, we took a lot of marches through the desert. And the last one was a 36-mile march that we took. It was called an endurance march. And instead of a rifle, I had a stretcher. And 2 aid kits on my side. They asked me, when they drafted me, they asked me what I did, you know, before I come in the Army. And I said, well, I told them I was kind of a small-time farm work. I said I used to hoe corn and stuff like that, new grounds, you know. That's all I told them when they put me in the medics. So they sent me to Barkley, Texas, and give me 12 weeks of medical basic. Went to Liverpool, England. And we got off in Liverpool, and I drove a Jeep with an aid station through England, from Liverpool to Southampton. And we put that on a ship at Southampton, and then we got on a ship, and I landed at Utah Beach 3 months after D-Day. And then I drove that Jeep and aid station through France up to around Verdun, France. But that's where I really got into the hot stuff. And from there on, it was like every day ass kicking or getting kicked. I was under Patton at the time, and he told us if we took Metz, we could occupy it. Well, of course, I wasn't the only outfit that was taking Metz. There was other units, you know, but that was what was told to us. It took us 13 days to take it. And then Patton put us about 3 miles out of Metz in the trenches. I was now a litter bearer. Well, a litter bearer, basically you have 4 of them for, if you get hit, it takes 4 guys to move you, 1 on each handle. I mean, that's the way it's set up. But you never had that luxury when you had them. Oftentimes, you would use prisoners to do your litter bear work. Which leads me to one situation where we were on this, well, there was a railroad track was front. The Germans was on one side, we were on the other. The infantry jumped over 5 minutes before daybreak. And I said, well, I'm going to just stay on this side for, you know, a couple of minutes, give them a chance to get out there and see what happens. Shit, it wasn't 6 or 7 seconds, and I heard one holler, "Medic!" So I went across the track, and the guy was hit right here, right through the damn heel bone. And I had an infantryman there to help me. You know, like a railroad has a bank, the track, and then a bank, you know how that is. Well, I was going up this side trying to get back over in our lines with the patient, and a machine gun opened up on me. Well, I just fell and rolled down the bank like I was dead. And my training told me that this machine gunner got about 10 seconds to live. And so I waited about 10 seconds, and during that 10 seconds, the guy on the stretcher was hollering, "Get me down from here." Then anyway, I figured, you know, do I want to get him down? Yes, but if I try to get him down, that machine gun will probably open up again. This time they won't miss, you know. So I was giving infantry boys time enough to kill that bastard so I could get the job done. Well, I waited 10, 12 seconds, and then we got him across the track and got him back all right, you know. Well, I think the old saying is, if you can make it back to the camp, you got a better chance of living than if you don't. And that goes for the Americans as well as the Germans. Two things. One is you're in a brazen battle. You don't have the men to spare to take you back for prisoner, and you usually get wound up getting shot and killed because there's too much at stake. Tizak, we were going through the square in Metz, and we came, and there was 4 or 5 wounded. As soon as we got through the square, on the left side, that's where we were, and then it's like a brick building, looked like a block long, at least a block long, maybe more. And I don't know if it was apartments or offices, but it was brick, and it was the end of the square, and it was on the left side that we were on, and we run into 5 or 6 wounded soldiers. And we stopped to take care of them, patch them up, and we got to the last one. I gave Tizak the word to, if he wanted to patch him up, I'd go get stretcher bearers, because I had to go through the square to the aid station and notify the people there they would send the stretchers up. Well, he got killed going through the square. Now, if he'd listened to me and patched the gap, I might have got killed going through the square. I hope not, but anyway, that's how it happened. We were on attack and sort of pinned down for a moment, and I had a guy took off to this building and tried to get inside, and when he got to the building, there's 2 or 3 steps you had to go up to get inside, and he stopped momentarily at that point, and at that same time a sniper hit him, and he fell and crawled in the building. Another guy tried it. He stopped when he got to the steps momentarily. Damn sniper got him. And there was one other guy tried it, and he got hit, same way. I'm sitting here watching it, you know, observing. And we didn't have nobody hit in my area, you know, with me, other than them. And that particular day, the company commander was with us. He was always around somewhere, but he was present that day. So I told him, I said, look, I'm going in and see what's going on with these guys. I know they're all hit. You ain't got nobody hit here. And the company commander said, Doc, you don't have to go in there till we take that building. I said, I know, but I said, I believe them guys needs my service there, and I said, I'm going. So I observed how they got hit, and I took off for the building, and when I got to the foot of the steps, instead of stopping, I turned the gas on, kept moving. And then, if anything, I went a little faster. Well, anyway, I got inside, and lucky for me, there wasn't no Germans in there, but just those GIs that got hit. Sniper from somewhere back where we were in that area was doing it. So I got in there, and one guy was hit in the back and come out his stomach. Well, I took care of him first. And then there was another guy. He was hit, I forget where, but I took care of him. And while I was doing that, the CP runner made it in to the building. And I told him, I said, listen, I said, take that guy's battle dressing off of his pistol belt and cover his wound with it while I'm finishing up here on this. So he took the battle dressing off, opened it up, and started to put it on. He said, Doc, he said, it's too big, so I can't even cover the wound. So I seen I'm gonna have to do something now. So I stopped what I was doing and turned to him and looked, and I said, oh hell, I said, I've covered bigger wounds than that with a damn Band-Aid. What's wrong with you, boy? And so anyway, I put the battle dressing on him and wrapped him on up with a few roller gauzes and stuff. And I told this runner, I said, look, I'm going to the doorway, and I says, I'm going to call back to the platoon there. I mean, they were only 30 or 40 yards away, and tell them not to do something foolish, you know, that things are pretty well under control here. And he spoke up and says, well, I'll call them. And he stepped in front of me like he was going to call, not by a telephone, but by holding, you know, just like that. And a bullet hit him, oh, I'd say 2 or 3 inches above the heart. And I'm about 3 foot behind him. I think might have dropped another inch, depending on the angle. He turned around and said, Doc, they got me. So I pulled him down to his tingle and looked. I said, now, God damn it, I says, I told you I would call him, and I said, now you step in front of me, you got the bullet I was looking for. I said, now you going home and I have to stay in this damn place. I guess it was close to the time that we were in Metz anyway. And we were maybe 8 weeks into battle, I would say, you know. And at that point, I was a litter bearer. And I would go out and take, usually if it called for it, 4 guys and pick up a patient here or there. We'd go to different companies, you know, whatever company had wounded would call in, and that's where we'd go pick them up and bring them back. And I built a rack on my Jeep that I could haul 3 stretchers and 4 or 5 walking wounded. And so oftentimes I would just go out with a Jeep by myself, you know, and get these guys and bring them back like that. And anyway, one day after about 6 or 8 weeks at it, one of the aid men who was with the platoon that jumps off every morning was in the foxhole all night, and the foxhole was half full of water or something. And next morning he was so stiff he couldn't get out of the foxhole. So we had to have a replacement for that platoon. And at the time, we were in like a Quonset hut, but it was cement, like a bomb shelter, you know. And I was sort of in charge of the guys who were there as far as they were concerned. And the duty sergeant came in and told me, he says, about this kid couldn't get out of his foxhole, we need a replacement. Well, I started to volunteer because I volunteered for every damn thing come up, didn't bother me. But I looked over and there was a guy sitting over here, and he had never been out on anything, and we were 6 or 8 weeks into it. I told the duty sergeant, I said, look, we were playing cards. I said, I'm going to shuffle these cards. and I'm going to deal them out. And I said, ever who gets a low spade goes. Good, he said. That's fine. That's good by me. I shuffled the cards. There was a guy here, and then that guy, I don't know what I gave him, but that guy got the deuce of spades. When I give that guy the deuce of spades, I said, there's your man. And he said to me, his name, this sergeant's name was Mundy, M-U-N-D-Y, Kenneth Mundy. He lives in Brooklyn. He said, Julius, that was the guy's name over there. He says, you can't send Julius. And man, that's when I blowed my goddamn top. I says, if you can't send Julius, I says, get the son of a bitch out of here and get me somebody in here you can send. I said, I'm not going to ask any of these guys here to take Julius's place. I said, because it's not right. And I said, you okayed it, and you stood here while I dealt the cards. Well, he didn't have no comeback saying you're right or anything of that nature. So finally I said to him, look, Mundy, I says, I'll take the job because I'm not going to ask these guys to do it. Because Julius Gold was supposed to go. So I took the job as aide man. I went up to the platoon, and me and that sergeant never got along after that. I decided early on, after I got over there and seen what Mundy was up to and how he was dealing things, I said, well, I'm going to have to do things the way I see it best because I'm not going to be able to do it with him. Anyway, I guess I was up there as the aide man about a week, and he calls me and he says, PFC McMillan, see, we made PFC automatically. If you were sent overseas at the time I went over, you was automatically made a PFC from Buck Private. So he said, PFC McMillan says, you know you made corporal? I said, not by your goddamn recommendations, and I hung the phone up. Well, it was about a week, maybe two. He called me again. Corporal McMillan, you know you made sergeant? Same damn thing. Not by your recommendation, I hung up the phone. I don't know, it was a day or two later, he calls me, says he wanted me to come over to the aid station. I just hung up the phone. I didn't bother him, you know. I wouldn't even go back there and get my damn medical supplies. I'd send an infantryman back there to pick my supplies up. And so he called me a couple of times, and I hung up on him. And then the third time, the battalion surgeon got on the phone and told me, McMillan, get your ass over here. So I went over then, you know. But I was kind of pissed off because I was still on the line, and you don't know, 5 minutes from now somebody gets hit, and I'm called out of that picture, you know. So anyway, I go out there, and there's a grassy field there, it looks like about an acre, and there's a bunch of GIs gathered there, I don't know, 15 or 20, and I'm kind of stewing at the gills, and I said, you mean you called me over here to sit around the goddamn grass? Well, anyway, what it was, they called them to, they were passing out awards. And they give out 8 or 10 Bronze Stars. And anyway, the last name called was mine, and they give me the Silver Star. And so I kind of felt a little sheepish about it, but I felt I was right also because I was needed up there. Then, of course, I was up in Bastogne when, well, actually, I was down in Sarlaughdon when the Bastogne Battle of the Bulge came about. And they sent the 378th and 379th Regiment from my division up there to stop that attack. They left my 377th in Sarlotern to cover all the damn territory for the other two regiments. You know, you set up aid stations, ideally not more than 500 yards from the front line. That's battalion aid. Sometimes you get a little more, but you try not to. You keep moving because you need to get close to those soldiers, you know, and get them back to the first doctor, you know, which is battalion aid. So I'm going across this damn bridge, across the river there, and the bridge looked to be about 45 yards maybe long. And I'm driving a Jeep with the aid station on the back, trailer, you know, a little quarter-ton trailer. I'm going across this damn cement bridge, and I see a German laying in the road at the end of the bridge. Well, this little pea brain of mine was started calculating what's going on here, and I noticed this German had on a clean, looked like brand new uniform. And I said, that don't add up to me with a German soldier out there fighting as hard as they have to fight. I said, that's a damn setup. I'm not into that. So I hit that something, it's doing about 30 miles an hour. And my front end of my Jeep jumped up and come back down, the back end hit him. And then after that, the trailer hit him. Well, I went on up to set up the aid station. I didn't look back. I know what I'd done. And it was GI up there, I don't know, about a half, 3/4 of a mile from the bridge. He stepped out to stop me. I stopped and he said, where are you going? I said, well, I'm going up to set up a forward aid station. He said, well, he said, you'd better set it up here because the Germans are right there. Or you'll be setting it up for the Germans. And anyway, I set up the aid station there, and then about an hour and a half later, I went back to get some more supplies. In the meantime, a few tanks had crossed that bridge and run over this guy that I run over. And I didn't see no head, no bones, no nothing. All I seen was that uniform that that guy was wearing. It was like this rug pressed on the road. During this time, that's when the Battle of the Bulge had started up there, and two regiments of mine went up there, and I'm down here doing this kind of stuff. Well, then there was an infantry outfit that relieved us, and I went up, my regiment. And when I got up there, you couldn't, if you took 4 or 5 steps in any direction all over that field, you could have stepped on a dead German if you'd have wanted to. That's how many that I seen that was killed in that one place. And in that same place, I saw about 3 2.5-ton trucks piled up like cordwood with dead GIs. But if you want to compare that to that, dead Germans, and if you want to just guess it off the top of your head and say what's the ratio, I think you would have said 10-1. Those boys fought valiantly. Yeah. Oh, there was one time we were fighting along there in Germany, and we covered this cement wall. It was about 5 foot high. If I stand up, probably my head would be noticeable from the other side. And this young trooper got hit, and he hollered medic, and I went up to him. He was out right at the wall, and he was all nervous and telling me to be careful and everything. And well, I stooped down over him to see where he was hit and so on, and I know what I was doing. It was foolish, but I did it anyway. I stood up. I was down here, and I stood up and drawed my scissors all at the same time and come back down. You know, just for what reason, I don't know, but I didn't have to do that, but I guess I was testing the Germans on the other side. I don't know. Anyway, when my head cleared that wall, a bullet hit the top of the wall and knocked a chunk of the cement off on my shoulder. And this patient, this young trooper, he said, "Doc," he says, "I told you," he says, "don't stand up there." I said, "Oh, hell," I said, "if I stood up for an hour," I said, "he might be able to hit me." I said, you know. We were in Bruin, Germany. Well, we wasn't in Bruin, we were just out of Bruin. And there was a little village down from Bruin to the right, and we had wounded down there. And so we can't go through Bruin because the Germans occupy Bruin. We have to find a different way to get in there. So I took the Jeep driver and me, and we took off in there, and we got out to a certain point in Bruin, and I looked down and I saw a goddamn Tiger tank sitting down there about 50, 60 yards down. Well, at that time, I was carrying a 45 under my belt. And my buddy had one of these little Berettas or whatever, Italian. And neither one of us was supposed to have a weapon because we were medics. But it looked to me like that the chips were down, we had to do something. If the Germans were looking, they damn well seen us. So I told the guy, I said, "Look," I said, "go on down to the tank," I said, "but cut your engine so they can't hear the motor." And I said, "when we get down to the tank," I said, "I'll get off and check it out, see, you know, if there's anybody in it or what, or if we don't get there, we don't get there, but, you know." So I went down there, and he cut his engine and drifted down, and he stopped, and I got off and got on the tank and had my 45. And lucky for me, there wasn't nobody in the damn tank. He had run out of gas. So we went on over there and picked up those wounded, and then we had to come up a damn log wagon road to get back, and we got stuck and had to have some infantry boys help us push a little, but we got out and got our patients back, you know. And then there was another one I told you about that I forgot. It was when the battalion surgeon sent me out to this company. He said their best sergeant got killed, and it's causing a morale factor with the platoon. They want you to come out and get him. So I get in the Jeep by myself, and I'm going down this road, and then I have to make a left and go about half a mile or 3/4 that way into a wooded area. That's where the company was. The problem was, when I made the left, it was a moonlight night, and it couldn't have been more moonlight than it was. You could see where the Germans had dug up the tar, like circles about this big, and planted mines in that damn road all the way out for tanks. I took that damn Jeep and went between those mines like this, all the way out there, and got that sergeant and weaved myself back out of that goddamn place without getting blowed up. I thought that was pretty. We was on the march, expecting to run into them anywhere, you know what I mean? That's everyday affair. We didn't know where we was going to run into them, but we knew it was just a matter of 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, you know, it's that kind of thing. And there was about, looked to me like about 20 or 25 trees, pine trees cut across the road. Well, we called guy who his job was to sweep these trees and make sure they weren't mined, right? And he was believe it or not, been in that unit for 5 or 6 years, well trained about what to do and not to do. And for some stupid reason, he didn't carry out his sweeping. He swept 2 trees and took for granted that the third one was all right, and it blew up. And I was laying on the bank of the road, right? He's right in the middle of the road, you know, and I'm right on the bank, laying there on my belly, looking up in the woods, trying to spot some Germans. Because I was always doing things like that, because I figured the GI's going to take care of everything that they see. But I figured I might see something they don't see. And I was always looking for the unexpected. Well, anyway, that damn thing blew up, and he was close enough to it. He got hit from here all the way down to his damn ankles. Just salt and pepper. He had a lot of bigger wounds too, but down to salt and pepper all over his face, body, everything. And he was, I took care of his larger wounds, but you know, I couldn't take care of all that salt and pepper. I'd have made a mummy out of him. But anyway, he was able to talk, and he was disgusted with himself, said, God damn, he says, I've been trained for 5 years not to do this, and here I've done it. There's one other thing that I didn't say on this round. We were in this house, fighting house to house. And we had this soldier who hadn't heard from his wife in 8 weeks, I think. And he was all upset and, you know, about as much as you could be over a situation like that, you know. Well, he gets a letter from his wife. And it was a nice house, and it was a little too dark, I guess, for him to read it like here. He goes in front of the window. I told him, I said, get away from that damn window. I said, a sniper will get you. He didn't listen. He might have got through one paragraph. A damn sniper hit him right between the eyes. When you go into a battle, it's my experience, you don't know very much. You've had a lot of training films and this, that, and the other, and they kind of go in one ear and out the other, unless you get in trouble, and then they come back to you, you know what I mean? But I remember having a training film where this sergeant, they'd been in a battle, and he's in a house like this, and he was all tired and run down. He sat down in a chair or something like that, and there was a picture hanging on the wall, and it was a little bit tilted. Not much, but a little bit. Enough that you could see it without any trouble. It was crooked. He takes whatever he had in his hand, a stick, reach over, going to straighten up that picture. The whole fucking room blew up.
Oh my God.
Well, things like that I didn't do because I knew it could happen. And not only that, this was a training film. Not only that, there was enough things like that happened in battle, like the guy got shot between the eyes there, was looking out a window when he could have been behind the wall, you know. Things like that, you get seasoned to what you can and cannot do, or should and should not do. And you quit taking stupid chances. In other words, I knew not to get in front of a damn window because you're asking for trouble. The snipers pin you down, that's close. Because, you know, the way you handle that is you hit the ground. If you're lucky enough to get there and you're still in one piece, you slide along on your belly for 10 or 12 feet, hoping that you're far enough away that he can't see you sliding along on your belly. Then you jump up and run 5, 10 feet, whatever he allows you to run. You hit the ground again, and that happened to me several times. Yeah. They came times like we was fighting house to house once, and this one medic went over to the next house to take care of a guy who was hit. And while he was there, well, the guy got killed really, but the medic went over there to check it out to make sure, you know, what's happening, take care of him. And here's the doorway in the building, and the door was open, and it's like a hallway goes in, and then doors leading off to the rooms, you know. Well, they had a machine gun sitting in that hallway, and this medic seen it, and they were afraid he would tell us or we'd kill him, you know, or whatever. Under those conditions, I think they did not. Okay? Mm-hmm. But I would say 80–85% of the time they paid attention. I know damn well I've been out. They sent me out to get a sergeant and battalion commander. I mean, yeah, he was a captain. He sends me out to get this damn sergeant that was killed over there. And here's a wooded area running, and this is a grassy area running all along the wooded area. I'm in that damn field. I go all the way to the end of that wooded area looking for that guy and didn't see him. And I know there was Germans in these damn woods just looking down my throat. But I didn't go looking like that, you know, because they let you know they're there, you know what I mean? I went to get the guy and I didn't find him, and I went back and told the captain I didn't find him. I said, I went all the way to the end of that wooded area. If I went any further, I said I would have been in German lines. And I said they were to my left in the woods there anyway. So that was that. He never commented more on that. But things like that, they send you out on stupid runs, like that sergeant, where I had to weave through these damn mines to get out there. There was no reason for me to have to go out there and pick that sergeant up that night. We could have got him the next day after they pushed on, you know what I mean? And there wouldn't have been no problem. But they send me out there in the goddamn middle of the night. And you know, I was more afraid of running into a German patrol than I was anything else. And the craziest damn thing was when I did get out there, got out of my Jeep, and I was halted by an American soldier. It was dark, and because I was in the woods, it was a moonlight night, but it was dark in the woods. He halted me, and I forgot the goddamn password. Just that fast, I forgot it. And I didn't know, I figured I got to say something, because if I don't, they're going to shoot my ass. So I said, I'm a medic, and I come up here to pick up a sergeant that y'all said was killed here, and he's having, causing morale of the troops here. I come to get him. And the guy said, advance and be recognized. But see, a lot of times they shoot and then ask questions. And these are some of the things you run into. You forget the damn password, you know. I was lucky. And I said the right things. I said things that they knew. And I guess they figured the Germans didn't know that, so I managed to wiggle out of it, you know. I was given the combat infantry badge and told I was allowed to wear it because at that time there was no combat medical badge. They hadn't come out yet. So I wore the combat infantry badge. But I have my doubts as to whether they put that on paper, because I ain't found out to this day about that. And when the medical badge come out, I wore that and did not wear the combat infantry, so I don't know if I am allowed to wear it today or not. This is the only souvenir I got home with from the Second World War. And how I got this was, we were fighting the SS troopers this particular day. We were in this wooded area. We had a small tank that only had a 37 millimeter artillery piece on top. That was our smallest tank, right? And it was hardly not big enough to knock out a German tank, even if it was close range, but I guess they did somehow. But anyway, this tank was providing us with machine gun fire. And we were going through this small wooded area, and we came to a opening, grassy area. And I told my BAR man, when I say mine, he's the only one in our platoon, that we're fighting SS troopers today, and if you see any of them laying around on the ground, I says, shoot them once for me. Because I said, they'll let you walk right over top of them and then they'll shoot you in the back. And we don't need any of that, so take care of it. Well, Pelka went out, and sure enough, 50 yards away from where I told him, there was 5 of them. There was 4 of them in a diamond shape. One here, one there, one here, and one here. Then there's one off to the right. Pelka pulled down on them with his BAR. Every one of them turned over. Every one of them was living. So I think that saved our platoon right there. But see, I had been there long enough that I was ahead of the game with these guys. I knew who they were, what they did, how they did it, and you learn. Well, I was basically behind him 25 yards or something like that. And I walked up to the field where they were. I could see them. And the BAR man, his name was Pelka, and he was one of the older guys of the bunch. And he says, every one of them turned over, he told me. And then he said, ha, 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 he said, I seen him do the dying wiggle. That was Pelka. He was a good man. I tell you, my lieutenant said he saved that platoon many, many times. That's the kind of soldier he was. This was on one of the 5, yeah. It was one there, one here, one here, and one here. Well, this one had the knife that I got. Then there was one over there. And I don't know what the others had on them. I just took this. Well, I was in this damn field, and there was a road going by me to the left. And the sniper had me pinned down, and this Jeep come down this road going up to a wooded area there where I was heading. And I said, and the sniper hit that one of the guys' helmet on that Jeep. And I heard the damn thing hit the helmet and zing off. And I knew that's what happened, because it was only maybe 15 yards from where I was laying pinned down. So I had a litter squad, 4 guys. So I give them information what to do and how to do it to get up into the wooded area and get out of the danger area with the sniper. Well, 3 of us made it to the woods. And I got up there and looked around, there was one missing. Now I got to turn around and go back down there. I didn't have to, but, one of my men's down there, right? I get back down there and that little son of a bitch got his head in the sand like what's the bird that sticks his head in the sand, you know, and did it. Yeah, I was really pissed off. I kicked his ass and got him out of there and got him up there, got him safe out. I told him, don't ever pull that damn trick again. I said, if you do, I'm gonna leave you there. But anyway, that's another little situation, you know, you get into. After that, we got into the drive of going to Berlin. And we were put into task forces, A, B, C, and D. So A would take off and do a certain amount, and when he run short on supplies or whatever, or time, or whatever the situation called for, then B would take over, same thing, then C, and we were marching to Berlin that way, riding tanks. There'd be maybe 8 or 10 of us on a damn tank, and then if they run into a German fight somewhere, we'd get off and knock them out and get back on, go on. And that's the way the war was fought in the last couple of weeks anyway. And we got to within 65 miles of Berlin, and then we came back. And when we came back from that, that's when they put us on these 40 and 8 railroad cars and was taking us back to, I believe, Le Havre, France, to get on a ship to come home, because we were supposed to come home and go to Japan. And the damn train wrecked, and that's when they put us on them damn trucks. The truck was full of GIs, each on both sides, as many as could sit on a 2.5 ton truck on one side, and the other was full. Now, these colored guys had logs on the bottom of the truck that they were going to use for wood, for a fire, which was all the way across, you know, I would say maybe 7 or 8 logs, you know, which covered the bottom of the bed. And we were like on top of them, sitting on each side, you know. And then we had these damn rucksacks. Everybody had a rucksack. Well, they weren't wearing the rucksacks because it was better to take them off and put them in front of you, give you a little more room to sit and what have you. Well, when they run over the damn road, I was on this side and the truck turned over this way. And all them logs and rucksacks was on top of me. Everybody got out but me. And I could raise, with my hands, I could push up like this, just long enough to holler help, and then I'd have to let it back down. I don't know how long I could have kept that up, but I did it 3 or 4 times, and the guys heard me and got them damn logs out of there and rucksacks off of me and everything. And then I went out, when I got off, I went out where the guys were there. It was like a field, and there was a fence line running there. And one of these colored guys walked over towards the fence with a hatchet. And a German come out with his hands up, and he come back to us and said, I took the motherfucker with the hatchet. That's the story there. But I don't believe he really took him. I think the fact that there was 15 other GIs nearby is what took him. I think really they gave me the Bronze Star because they said anybody with a Silver Star deserves a Bronze Star. You know, I think that's how it came about. However, I'm not 100% sure on that. About September of '48, I went back to Germany. The Germans were hard pressed for a place to live, number one. Number two, there wasn't much to eat. Number three, work. There wasn't a whole lot of work. I mean, we hired a lot of them, you know, for to work around the hospital, you know what I mean. I hired a brace maker for our hospital there. He's a damn good one too. Old fella. He was a captain in the German army. But he got captured by the Russians. And he told me, he said, them Russians are really stupid. He said, he went over and put some plumbing in for the officers, Russian officers. Said the enlisted ones was watching him, seen him stick this pipe in the wall and turn on the spigot and the water come out. They thought all you had to do was that. All in all, hey, it was pretty good. I mean, most every GI had a Fraulein, you know. If he didn't, there was plenty of them floating. And I remember 48 when I went there, I'd go to the club, and we had this club. It was just a little one-story building, about like this, and about as long as both these rooms, maybe a little more. And then they had doors that opened, just little shutter doors opened, didn't have no windows. And outside on the street next to that club, you look out and there'd be women lined up all down that damn street looking for a GI to come pick them up. Besides that, you had people coming in from Poland, like immigrants and places like that, displaced, and they had no place to live, so they'd give one of your rooms to maybe a whole family live in that one room. Mm-hmm. In fact, these people I knew when I met my wife, they had an apartment with, I think, 3 bedrooms or something. And they had to give one room up, and a whole family, about 4 or 5, moved in that room. They had to live there until things got better, you know, maybe, well, the occupation started in 45. I would say things weren't too good until the late 50s, you know what I mean? And then the Germans began to build themselves more and fix up some of the ones that was already blowed up. And when I went to Frankfurt in 1948, there was not a restaurant in town. That's a big city, Frankfurt is. There was not a place to eat anywhere. The Germans had these grills out on the sidewalk, and they'd fix wurst and these little brochen. And I used to go down there and get me a brochen and a wurst and a bottle of beer, and that was what I liked. You can only remember so much at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want to hear the teaser?
I mean, from what I've told you here, really is maybe a drop in the bucket as to what I really went through. But
Yeah.
it was all basically the same thing. You go out and you kill a few and you get away with it, you know what I mean? And patch up a few and you move on to the next day, you know, and every day is basically about the same except when something terrible turns up.